And we start in the US, the world's biggest economy. As you've been hearing, all eyes are currently on New Hampshire as the two remaining Republican presidential candidates make their last-minute pitches across the state. So this is the second in a series of state-by-state contests with Donald Trump and Nikki Haley fighting for the party's presidential nomination. But with a cost of living crisis hitting many American households, what are these two candidates saying about economic policy? I asked Dr. Thomas Gift from the University College London, who told me that Mrs. Haley and Mr. Trump have an in common economic policy.
There isn't a whole lot of discussion about the U.S. economy in terms of policy. What there is a whole lot of discussion is about sort of the state of the U.S. economy. And both Haley and Trump can agree that what Biden is doing is not working. If you look at data, the Financial Times recently found that about 14% of Americans think that they're better off now than they were at the start of the Biden White House. And when you think about the classic metric for whether an incumbent is going to win re-election, it's how do voters respond to the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? That dates back to Ronald Reagan. So there is a whole lot of pessimism about the U.S. economy, and both Haley and Trump are trying to press on that. But whenever it comes to policy, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion. Really, that reflects the fact that this primary is really a battle of personalities.
And what do you think the outcome of this primary will be?
Well, I think it's going to be close, much closer than we saw in Iowa, but I really do think that Donald Trump is going to run away with it. We saw Ron DeSantis exit the race just a couple of days ago and throw his support behind Donald Trump. And so, I think that there's just a lot of momentum now. Trump's going to win in New Hampshire, and that's essentially going to be it. Fundraising is going to dry up for Nikki Haley, and I think that there's just going to be a general coalescing around the fact that he's the president.
OK, so we know what a Trump presidency looks like and feels like, having been through it once already. Of course, as you say, the track record of Biden is being weighed up by American households in terms of how the economy is looking. Is that going to be Trump's big push? I'll make America great again. It's that same old mantra.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and that entails a whole lot. But, he's really pressing up against this fact that he thinks that the U.S. economy is kind of in dire straits. And there are lots of aspects to, Trumpism when it comes to the economy. But it's primarily sort of standard Republican fare, deregulation, lower taxes. And of course, he's going to take a tough stance on China. But that's not necessarily unique, right? He sort of started this press for tariffs. I think where you might see one difference is how he deals with some allies and countries that are not China. Trump has proposed, buffering U.S. industry with a 10% tax generally. That's a really populist policy plank. The goal there is to get Mexico, Canada, and other nations to negotiate concessions.
Dr. Thomas Gift there from UCL. Needless to say, here on BBC News, we'll be across the New Hampshire primaries. As the results come through, we start to see who the winners and the losers are. All that here later on BBC News.